as I'm sitting here and basking in the glow of my laptop screen. The reason I have this open, well, let me add a reason why I have this open. First of all, I've been, I don't know if you can say communicating, but Google, it has the option to do the AI thingamajigger, right? And I've been using that for good. It's amazing that AI doohickey thing, and you have to, filter it with what you think is correct or not. But I was asking, what kind of woods did various bands of the Apache use for their bows? And this thing goes through all these websites and stuff and calculates a good answer for it's a good resource. It really is. For bow making. All sorts of things. And so I asked, what would be a good source for the lowest price for buying Osage staves? And I landed upon a site, OsageOrange.com. The guy is a bow builder and also gathers Osage and sells it in Iowa, and it's not like a store. It's kind of like me in some respects, being kind of small time, but doing small time as far as not having like credit card numbers and all this and shipping, not as developed from a business standpoint. Financial, I'm getting myself in deep here, like Pine Hollow Longbows, or Three Rivers Archery, but from what I read, what he does, it's a good solid resource, OsageOrange.com. And so I emailed him, and I gleaned that from that Google chat AI thing. I would have never heard of him. So yeah, I emailed him, as far as this is what I'm looking for. I predominantly make the shorter horse bow type of things, 44 to 50 inches long, blah, blah, blah. Although I do loves me some snaky longbows when it comes to the horse bows, prefer clean, straight staves. But anyway, primary reason is I get emails sent to me. Now I'm not gonna dox you. I'm not gonna say who sent this, okay? And I'm using this. You sent me this email, and I'm sending it over the internet, but in a very respectful way because I believe that your email can help other people. So it's for good. Let's see here. Just saw your video, ended up winning the bid, blah, blah, blah. I'm not blah, blah, blah. It continues. And no, you don't have to cover the cost. Until I get a bow in my hand, I don't want to see any money from anyone. But in your book, you talk about how sinew back bows can be drawn to 50% of their length, but you want to take care of the materials and not draw it to that consistently. Okay. Now, the ultimate draw length of a bow, number one, if you're making it and it's going to be your own bow, might be a little longer than me who's making a bow to sell it. I'm conservative with my draw lengths. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on the design. If I was to, which I styled this after the West Coast style paddle bows, and this is greatly enlarged. If you take a paddle bow or even a pyramid bow, because they weren't all paddle bows, some of them were pyramid bows, made out of yew, sinew backed nicely, wide limbs, and some of these things are over 3 inches wide. You're going to get a long draw length because of the design of the bow and the material. If you take a narrow bow, not a paddle bow, and this is kind of a wide, short bow, you're going to get a different potential draw length. If you use red oak, white oak, salt cedar, which is a good bowwood, yew, osage, mulberry, mesquite, you're gonna get within the same design and length, everything being equal, all sinew back, let's say. You're gonna get different draw lengths out of each one of those things. For a given draw weight, because that plays into it because of materials. Materials, design, backing. weight, they all play a part in the ultimate before you start causing damage draw weight or draw length. So, when I say, and other people will say, you can, sinew backed bow, nice bow, beautiful bow. You can get 50% of the length knock to knock in the draw length, and it'll be fine. That's a very artificial kind of thing. Yeah. In the perfect world, with a good bow, good materials, sinew backing, you should be able to get 50%. If I was making my own bow, and I would say, this is the draw length, it's going to be greater than if I'm selling that bow. So, there's so many things that play a part of it, but generally speaking, yeah, with a well-built sinew-backed bow of decent material, you should expect, you can get, this is tough, because of all the variables, 50%, 50%, choked on my skull. Okay, do you have an idea how many layers of sinew you are targeting, or is it more of a feel during backing procedure? I have 0 requests on this front, just curious. Okay. In that last sentence there is kind of specific to why he's emailing me back and forth. I kind of do a compromise, a protective layer. You would look at the bow and you could actually see wood where it kind of dried and separate a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. A power layer might have 2.5 layers, and I do that side to side, fully covering it. 1 second layer, and then a third one down the center, because on a humped crowned bow, why not maximize where that stress from tension is? I usually do 1.5. I would like to, if it's a gull wing, definitely I'll have at least 2 layers in the handle section to keep the reflex in it. But if you just get a nice layer that when it dries, it's not going to separate and you won't see any wood, and then 1 down the center, that's plenty strong. It's not what I would consider a super power layer, but it's a good working layer. 1.5. 1 full, 1 layer sinew isn't always 1 layer sinew. It can be a little thicker. And this kind of goes into a question I had. Can I reach it? Yeah, I can, quickly. How about just not even separating or combing the layer of back strap, just gluing it right on in fall? Well, you've got the sheathing. You also have that issue on this side. They're very long fibers. On this side, they're very short, just to give you an idea. I guess, let's see here. I'm not going to do it on this, but it's kind of triangular shaped. And so I suppose if you were able to get the sheathing off, you could, a widthwise strip of this, and then trim it, or just brick layer it, so you're taking account of this different lengths here. But why not just comb it, And this will go into another question I received in my comments. Why try to save some time and then just glue a whole one on when combing it out and separating them and cleaning the sheathing off, and also stressing them a little bit so they'll absorb the water, glue mixture a little better? Just follow the steps. These are the steps I should do. Just follow the steps. And, I appreciate trying to save some time, but sometimes when you step out of the realm of following the correct steps in saving time, why? You're spending all this time making a bow. You might as well, I'm going to say, do it right. Now, I don't want to forget the next one, but I receive a lot of these questions. Making a short bow, right? You're investing the time in woodworking. You're investing the time, and I want this bow to be successful. Can I use um, like nylon string or something like that, or artificial sinew to back it, or this or that, and using this kind of glue and stuff. Kind of goes along with the question about the backstrap sinew. Why not just apologize for saying it this way, but why not just do it right? You know, it's not difficult if you want to back a bow. And linen is an option, you know, or even cotton fabric if you're making like just your first or second or whatever red oak longbow. I want just a bow that I can make 45 pounds. It's not going to break. Sure, knock yourself out. And I've done this too. Just get fabric, you know, cotton fabric, and glue it on the back, and you can get different patterns, whatever. And then it kind of grades into the artificial snake skin, which is a man-made kind of a thing. But if you can go to eBay or go to Three Rivers or go to Pine Hollow Longbows, why not just buy some tendons and pound them and learn? You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? If you really want to be a bow maker, there's all these proven things. Rawhide strips, the cloth snakeskin, sinew. There's no reason to try to save a few bucks and potentially like ruin this bow that you spent time making. Just, this is what I have to do. And just like this, rounding the back. You know, this is what I have to do to make this bow right. And there might be shortcuts, this and that, but we're not a shortcut kind of crowd. If you want to work your way up to making a sinew-backed Osage orange longbow, you have to follow the steps. You have to pay the price of admission. You have to go through this, you know, in order to do it. If you want to truly grow as a bow maker, follow the steps. With experimentation, I'm constantly experimenting. What else? Do you also offer arrows for an additional fee of commission? In the past, yeah. I make arrows. I personally, and you know, they're great hunting arrows, and if you're not rough on them, I'm like my dad said, I can break anything. If you're not rough on them, or you're using them for hunting arrows, and you know, you get a deer and the arrow breaks, c'est la vie. You just got the deer for the price of a broken arrow shaft. I'm never gonna buy Port Orford cedar. I would buy, if I was making commercial shaft arrows, Sitka spruce. It's darn near about the same density and weight, near, as Port Orford cedar, but Sitka spruce arrows are so much tougher. So if I was to make arrows with commercial shafts, I'd have to source them. It's hard to find Sitka spruce shafting sometimes. Sitka spruce. I would also use river cane. I love river cane with hardwood foreshafts. And a lot of times I'll make plugs for the knock end of them, fit them in there out of wood. And also red osier. I'll make arrow shoots. I made a set, an Ishi reproduction set with an otter skin quiver and, you know, a juniper bow that was sinew backed, Ishi bow, and a set of arrows. And I sourced mock orange because I can't find mock orange here. They use that on the West Coast. And let's see here. Also, it was hard because the West Coast natives, fine arrow makers, arrow point makers, I sourced a person that was capable of making them. And fortunately, I know a person now, Cody Stemler of Stones and Bones. That's the name of his thing. Cody could make Ishi arrowheads all day long. Cody's is a master point maker. Let's see what else I have here. But long story short, when I make a set of arrows and sell them, they're expensive. And that's why, you know, sticker shock, but I can do that. Would I be able to request a horsehair plume on the top? Not, oh yeah, definitely. WR, heck yeah, I can put a horsehair tuft on the tip of your bow. I like that too, I do. And this is a good connection. Carlos, I do believe I shall use one of the tufts that you sent me, because that's a domestic horsehair. Um, a lot of times when I'll use a horsehair tuft, I'm sorry, but it probably comes from Mongolia, which is okay. Which is okay. That's perfectly allowable. The Mongols were incredible hornbow makers, but it would be nice to have some domestic horsehair, and fortunately our friend Carlos sent me some. So yeah, I'm on that. So I answered those two things. Answered those two people. It's just, get some sinew. Learn that. Up your game. Up your game. It's not a hard thing. And I totally understand that, a lot of the things, the techniques and the materials that we use in the primitive bow world might be a little intimidating for a first timer. But just as an example, and not to brag, like the absolute third bow I made in my life that was successful, because I made a lot of broken ones prior to that, until I discovered Jim Ham's book. It's a small one. I think it was called The Bows and Arrows of the Native Americans. That book, it's a light bulb moment for me when I read through it. And it's a very small book. Once I read that, I understood, and I was starting to make bows. But the second or third bow that I made, I sinew backed, and it was successful, because sinew backing, basically, if you're careful, is easy. Sinew backing is easy. Sinew backing beautifully, is a skill that you learn, but to get a working sinew layer that protects the back of your bow, that may or may not be the prettiest, is easy. So just go and do it. Yesterday, I did get slowed down a little bit. I did round the back of this. So the rounding template is in the back, but it's just simply, and I didn't scrape or anything on this. I just used my sanding block, but I made a long one. The longer it is, the more sandpaper is on it. I used 60 grit, and I used the rubber eraser to clean it out, because it'll get gummed up, right? But I'm going to tell you something here. And I just took pencil, a red one, like a little art pencil, and just scribbled all over the back, just covered it, and just sanded it till it disappeared. Now, when I got to the mid limbs, I didn't necessarily want to keep sanding the narrower parts, right? Because I didn't want to affect the tiller of this thing. And so I would clean out the end of my long sanding block, or I could have made a shorter one just to do the center and not touch this. But I allowed most of it to gum up, so it was not very effective, but I kept a little area clean in the front so I could really work the back. And as soon as that pencil disappeared in the center here, voila, I was done. Now, this is on the thick side. I have to anticipate, I make the bow, begin tiller it when it's just a board flat on the back. I have to anticipate, how thin to make it, because when I round it, it reduces the wood and it makes it more limber. Now, I made it a little on the thick side, which is okay, because I can sand some more on the back, reduce that, and then sand some on the belly, to bring it down to where I want. Now, the paddle bow is getting back to draw length. Circling back, to quote Raggedy Ann. What would be the draw length of this? That's why a lot of times when I'm selling a blank or selling a bow maybe or whatever, usually a blank, because I know what the draw weight is when it's produced and finished. But with a blank, people say, well, what will the draw length be on this bow? I won't give you the inches. I will say more. Draw the bow when you finish it back. The ultimate draw length is 52 pounds, and wherever that hits 52 pounds, that's your draw length. Because I look more you have different bow styles. You know, to give you an idea, different materials, because I work in multimedia. I'll look at this bow. This is hickory, by the way, BTW. Analyzing the length, analyzing the width, the material, this, that, and other thing, whatnot, and etc. The wood in this bow can handle holding the potential energy. In the case of this short hickory bow, the width and everything, 62 pounds when it's sinew back. So wherever that 62 pounds, because you did some shaping on this thing, you did some thinning, you did some rounding, it changes stuff. But wherever that is, I don't know how you're going to thin it. That'll affect, you know, the draw weight per length, per inch you draw it back. This can handle 62 pounds. And so you thinned it, you rounded it, you did whatever you did to it, you sinew back that. I believe that don't draw this past 62 pounds. You know, if it was red oak, same deal, same length, same width, same dimensions. I believe that the wood within that bow, if it's tillered correctly, can handle repeated use, you know, because longevity is a key, 48 pounds. You know, and wherever you hit 48 pounds, and again, if you're going to get into bows, you might as well pick up, and this is just like a fish scale. You literally just hook that to the string, you pull it back, and when it says 48 pounds, it's 48 pounds. You know, so there are certain things that you should own, if not make. If I had another bow, this one, this is rawhide back, this is 56 inches, it's recurved. I believe that you can pull this one back wherever you would finish it if you built it like this, rawhide back, 51 pounds or 52 pounds. I'm not going to get, you know, 1 pound. I'd say 50 pounds. You know, and wherever, when you finish this bow with these dimensions and these details, wherever it hits 50 pounds, that's your draw length. Regardless of the whole, I backed it so it should be half the thing. You're going to reduce the draw length with the recurves because, in effect, you're making a shorter bow. But yeah, I have to be conservative. If I sold that finished, I would measure the weight, figure out where the draw length is. It's the draw length for that bow, based on the, because this affects it too, the brace height. But if it was my bow, personal bow, I'm not going to sell it, I would draw it longer than what I would tell you. Especially in the case of this. If this was a 52 pound, and you can get specific, you know, at 20 inches paddle bow. You know, when I'm flight shooting, I'll draw it back to 31 inches. But I'm going to tell you 28 inches. When I'm flight shooting, I'll also have a lower brace height. Slightly. And then just draw it back English style. Draw it all the way back because I want to see how far the arrow flies. But again, that would be my bow. And I'm more willing to go longer than when I sell it to you, 28 inches maximum, because I want that bow to last a while. And do I have flubs? Yeah. You know, occasionally I'll send out a bow and there will be something up with it. I don't know. And the thing will fail. It happens. But, you know, we all make mistakes, but how we handle those mistakes determines our character. And it's like, I'll send you a replacement. Send your money back, but usually people want a replacement more than their money back. And that's how I've that's how I've managed to be in the bow business for so many years and not have, like, people complaining. I wound up buying a hickory bow. It was just basically a slat of wood, right? And it was this company that was selling these bows real cheap, like $40. I bought a bow. And this is the draw weight of the thing. And man, that was the draw weight for the first couple of hours, and then it kept getting worse and worse until finally I forgot what I did with it. Made a tent stake out of it or something. You know, because after a few hours, after a day, whatever it was just kind of a worthless bow. You know, they made their money on it initially. They didn't sell it for too much, probably because if they sold it for the price that I'd sell my bows for, people would complain. But, you know, for $40 for a bow, whatever. I'm not going to complain about it too much because you do get what you ask for. In other news, this is the last one. I made 6 tip ones, tip bending forms, and I've got 3 center ones. You can see they're different. This is a less of a bend. So I can, sometimes you have to backtrack a little bit, and I made sure that's the tip end of them when I put them on. You know, I can, when I start getting into the flow, utilizing all of my blanks for my horse bows, I can steam shape 3 of them at once. Tiller them, steam shape them, fire harden them. I always have the bows fully tillered, maybe not drawn all the way back. You don't have to draw them all the way back to get an idea of the evenness of the bend. Before I sinew-back them, especially when you fire harden them, right? Because you don't want to be scraping any of that belly away, because it might kind of offset the amount of fire hardening. Yeah, I think I've talked long enough. Have a good one. Thank you for watching.